Hello and welcome to the Victorian Toffees show. I'm Andy, and with me again is Nick.
Hello.
And we've also got a guest today, our good mate Tim.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
So, welcome. And how about you join us and tell us your journey of supporting Everton?
Well, based on the last week's show, I think, as we all know, it's not necessarily a happy story.
Yeah.
Never is.
My following the Premier League started out with Leeds back in the days of Kuhl and Viduka. And obviously they crumbled and went down a couple of leagues, which made it really hard to watch the games over here in Australia. So I figured time to pick a new team. And around that time, Cahill was playing for Everton. So I guess there's a bit of a theme here of me following Premier League teams that have Australian players in them. I guess Brighton would be next in that case. But
oh God,
you're the worst Glory supporter ever.
Yeah, that's right. Just follow the Aussies. And yeah, I went with Everton because A, Cahill, and B, I didn't want to be a bandwagon jumper on one of the top six, like I imagine a lot of the current Liverpool supporters are. So yeah, and it's been misery ever since.
Yeah.
Keep it, drink up.
Yeah, I'd like to say I've never looked back, but that would be a bold-faced lie.
Yeah, no, it's pretty much part of being an Everton supporter is the dismal results and performances and just the misery of it all. But when when it's good, it's good.
Exactly right. And obviously, I met you blokes through our Victorian Everton supporters group through the page on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting up till 4 a.m. one deadline day only to watch us sign Alex Iwobi instead of Wilf Zaha. But anyway, and it's been nice to have some good company to share the misery with.
That's true. Nothing like good company.
Misery loves company.
That's it. So we'll have a bit of review of the Spurs game. We'll start with you, Nick. What were your thoughts of it?
Pretty dismal, really, wasn't it? I think there was absolutely nothing going on, especially in the midfield. Obviously, don't want to single them out too much because I don't think any of them were any good, apart from, there's a couple of good performances, Gordon, but I think Sigurdsson was dreadful again. Just an absolute passenger in the game. Pretty much what he's done for the last season and a half, 2 seasons, which is pretty much the square root of nothing. Just no creativity, no fire, no passion. We don't have that player who can grind, can go and make something happen when we're not doing too well. I think you'd probably say Richarlison would be that one player that we have, and when he's not at it, it's blatantly obvious that we have absolutely nothing to fall back on. So overall, start off on a negative, but it was pretty abysmal, and we thoroughly deserved to get beat.
Yeah, it really did come across as just not performing at all in both halves. How about you, Tim?
Yeah, pretty much agree with everything Nick said. I did not get up at 3 a.m. to watch the game, thankfully. So I've since regaled myself in both the 3-minute and 20-minute highlights, which is basically 23 minutes of my life I'm never getting back. And I think Gordon was a bit of a highlight. I don't know if you blokes remember, I sent a message in our WhatsApp group mentioning that, if Burnley and Sheffield United draw and we beat Tottenham, that really throws us in the ring for Europa League contention. So something that, we'll probably touch on a bit later is how Everton perform when that sort of opportunity is presented to us.
When there's any sort of pressure and there's anything for us to go and take that next step, we just always bottle it.
Yeah, and it's 100% a familiar theme throughout the reign of every manager that I've supported Everton under. Any time we're close to sort of top 4 or a cup final or anything or beating Liverpool's bloody reserve team, we just capitulate, whether it be from the start of the game or the last 5 minutes. So it was disappointing in that regard. Although, as you guys were saying last week, maybe making Europa League is not that big of a priority anyway. So maybe it's a blessing in disguise. But also agree massively with Nick about the lack of creativity in midfield. and found it interesting that Ancelotti chose this game to change our 4-4-2 formation and, sort of try and mix the midfield a bit. Obviously, he was trying to solidify the midfield, but we lost the battle not only there, but all over the park, really. Look, we deserved to lose. We created nothing, and it was just a bit disappointing because Spurs were pretty vulnerable, really. And another top 6 team that we haven't beaten, I think, in 12 years, home or away. So,
yeah, another unwanted record.
That's right.
What about yourself, Andy? We haven't heard from you.
Yeah. Well, like I said,
positives?
positives. Yeah, Gordon. I thought Gordon did quite well, and I actually thought Tom Davis had a decent first half. Like, actually, he got the ball, and he was moving forward. He didn't really, from what I noticed, stop and turn and back and give it back to Pickford, like some other, midfielders, Gomez. So yeah, just I don't know, early stages I thought, yep, there could be something here, but as soon as the goal happened, I was just like, oh, here we go. But then just seeing the same reactions, like, heads down, heads in the air, like, oh my God, like what now? And just no one really, snapping them out, going, get your head in the game, like Coleman's our captain. Why isn't he running in going, come on, guys, get back into your spots and let's go again? Like,
I was thinking, I was thinking about this, and a lot of people that, if we have any viewers, will probably slaughter me for this, but we don't have a Phil Neville there to point and shout and yell. And okay, he was never the most gifted footballer, but at least he would rally the troops and shout and scream and get stuff done. And obviously, if you go past and all the other captains that we've had, a Ferguson, something like that, and before, there's no one there that to me can really drive things forward when the chips are down.
That's what Fabian Delph's for, though, right?
Well, yeah,
when he's not injured.
I'll show you later. But anyway, yeah.
Or sent off.
Yeah, we don't have that captain, that leader who can go and rally the troops. And I think that was blatantly obvious. As soon as we went down, we'd lost that game. I mean, the goal was in the 26th minute.
Yeah.
And we'd lost it. 1-0 down. That was the referee could have blown the whistle. We could have walked off the pitch. Game done.
Which gives you flashbacks of the Marco Silva era, doesn't it? I think that horrible record of never coming from behind to win a game during the whole time Silva was in charge. Might have been once. So basically the blueprint of beating Everton for the whole time Marco Silva was in charge was score first.
That's it. Yeah. But I also was just frustrated with just the decision making by mostly our midfield and even just Pickford. Like, we saw some memes going around of like, kick it to like, you think, okay, kick it to Calvert-Lewin. He's tall, he's tough. He kicks it to the shortest guy in the field.
Bernard.
Like Bernard. Like, where's your tactics there? Like, come on. Like, or if you're not, if no one's up there, all right, play it short, build it from the back. Like, don't just kick it and go, oh well.
Yeah, and I actually think Pickford's the type of guy who, and this may be an unpopular opinion, if you can iron out those sort of flamboyant goalkeeper mistakes, which none of us really want to see. If you've watched our recent games without the crowd noise, he's actually very vocal on the pitch, like to every player. Like, he'd kick it out to Richarlison, a long kick. He's got to do battle with Van Dijk in the air, which is no mean feat when you're giving away, a foot in height already. And every time Pickford was there, well in, Richie, well in, and you could actually hear him. Like,
okay.
There, so I could hear him all.
That's a good observation.
That's a good, yeah. I should actually try and watch a game without the crowd noise, because it'll be really interesting to see what the actual players, what's being said on field. Because with the crowd noise, you hear some parts, but you just don't hear everything.
Yeah, and I think, he is very vocal, but we forget he's still young, particularly in goalkeeping terms.
Yeah.
And I do kind of have a feeling that Pickford suffers a little bit from ADHD, so I'm not sure that everything he says on the field would be wanted.
Yeah. And it still frustrates me, like, he would make a good save, or like, something would happen and he would just like laugh it off.
Yeah.
And it's like, mate, there's a corner. There's no time to be laughing. Like, get in position, get ready, and he just laughs it off and like, oh boy, oh.
Yeah,
it's just I don't know. It's just for me, it's not good to see. It's like you want your keeper to be focused and like, all right, lads, all right, sorry about that, my mistake, my bad, all right, focus.
I share that frustration with Pickford. Definitely, I think I pointed out the same thing to a friend of mine when we were at Goodison, and he pointed out that I think the whole laughter thing, because it really wound me up as well, because we're all fuming and he's laughing. It might be a nervous thing. It might be something that's in his personality that he, rather than get frustrated and annoyed and shout, laughing is just, how sometimes in awkward situations you'll laugh.
Yeah, people cope with it.
That might be it, or he could just be being infuriating that other way. But I don't know. It's something I haven't really quite worked out. But visually, it annoys me as well. I completely get that. It's something I wish wasn't the case. But whether or not he is doing it because he doesn't think it's a big deal, or whether or not it's just a personality trait, I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's just very frustrating and stuff. But any other thoughts on the game?
Don't know. Shall we? Well, we can move on to. I think that probably the less said about the game, the better. I don't think there's much really
I'm getting
to say
that sense
other
too.
than improvement needed. But talking about our midfield, I've got some stats that might bore you. I'll give credit to Grand Old Team, the Everton fan site, because I pulled it off there. I think their moderator put it together. But I'll just read. Out of our midfield, Gordon's not included in it because he's only played a couple of times.
Yeah.
But this might take me 30 seconds or so. But Andre Gomez, 42 games, 1 goal, 1 assist. Tom Davis, 100 games, 5 goals, 4 assists. Bernard, 57 games, 4 goals, 5 assists. Sigurdsson, 95 games, 19 goals. Not sure about assists. It doesn't have it. Delph, 16 games, 0 goals, 0 assists. Which is to be expected. Iwobi, 22 games, 1 goal, 0 assists. Again, probably expected that. Walcott, arguably the best one, 72 games, 9 goals, 5 assists. So Gordon, on average, he's played, 2 starts? And he scored 1... he's had 1 assist. It's probably, on average, he's probably our best midfielder already. So...
Wow.
That's depressing.
I love that you dived into stats, because I've done a bit of research myself prior to this game.
We actually prepared for this episode.
This game, after the Spurs game, basically, because as we discussed, how toothless our midfield was. So Nick, I guess most of those stats were sort of career at Everton stats, weren't they?
Yeah.
So the ones that I've been looking up were very similar, but I've looked at sort of just this season. Obviously, take into account that we've had Silva, Ferguson, and then Ancelotti, so tactics have changed or whatever. But just have a look at sort of our leading goal scorers and assists. Obviously, DCL on 13 goals puts him 12th in the league. Happy with that. Richarlison on 11 goals, 17th. That's great. That's our 2 strikers of recent times anyway, because Richie tended to operate out on the left a bit earlier in the season. Our assists, Dinya on 6 and Sidibe, who can't even get a game now, on 4. They're our leading assist getters in the league. Now, I know that, the way things go these days, obviously fullbacks are, more prominent. Like, look at Alexander-Arnold and Robertson from Liverpool, but Sidibe couldn't hold a candle to either of them, it pains me to say. Dinya's obviously a gun, but I also am uncertain how many of those assists come from set pieces as opposed to open play. And they're like the highest one. I had to go through 60 players, and I still hadn't found another Everton player in terms of assists in the Premier League. So I thought I'll go a bit deeper than that, because goals and assists don't always tell the full story. Key passes per game. So passes that create chances and open things up. Again, Dinya the highest, 2.1 per game, which puts him 6th in the league, which is pretty good. Next best, believe it or not, is Sigurdsson on 1.5. That puts him 19th. And then all the way back to Richarlison on 1. And, he's a striker. He shouldn't be really too concerned with key passes. This is the one that stood out to me a lot, these next couple, actually. So dribbles. If I said to you who makes the most dribbles at Everton, like successful dribbles, who would you think of? Or who attempts them even?
Iwobi?
I would have said Richarlison.
Yeah, but doesn't it bother you that it takes that long to try and figure that out?
Yeah.
That we get one player off the top of our heads who grabs the ball and runs at defenses and defenders sort of pack themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And looking at these stats, it made me realise that we really don't have a player like that. So I mean, Richarlison, Nick, you were spot on. He's up the top there, followed closely by Coleman, believe it or not.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Coleman.
Is Iwobi anywhere near that list? Because that's
Yeah.
what
He's the next best. The next best is Iwobi, just so
okay.
1.7, 1.6, 1.4. Even fouls against, obviously good players that defenders are scared of, they foul them more because, they're getting away from me, I have to stop them, so they do it illegally. Davis, 1.3 fouls a game, is our leading foul winner. Tom Davis, who you would hardly envision as our most scary offensive midfielder.
Yeah, I actually, I've actually noticed that, Tim, with him since the games have come back. He's I don't know, he does these silly fouls, like even with the Liverpool game, right on the edge of the box.
These are the amount of times he's been fouled. I mean.
Oh, he's been fouled.
Yeah, he's our most fouled player.
Tom Davis, he is quite a neat and tidy little footballer when he has the ball and when he's got his brain switched on.
Yeah.
So I've noticed that over the last couple of seasons that he's been in and around the team, and he does seem to get a lot of kicks from other players. I think he has got that sort of flash. He probably annoys defenders, but there's just something over the last sort of 6 to 12 months about Tom Davis. It's like his candle's gone out, and that's
that's what I was thinking. Yeah, because I know I feel like that's interesting that he's our most fouled player.
He prefers his fashion, I think. Him, Dom and Tom's great weekend away in New York.
In New York.
To that now.
Yeah, if anyone hasn't seen those photos from when they were in, was it New York together?
Yeah, New York.
Do yourself a favour and check them out.
I think fair play to the lads. I mean, they're young lads enjoying themselves, got a load of money.
Mm.
They're not hurting anyone, are they? They're not doing, like a La Manga Leicester squad kind
That's
of.
Right.
That was a big thing years ago. But so I've got time for that. But yeah, Tom Davis, there's something about him that's just gone off the boil.
And the last stat I looked at as well was through balls. The closest we got was Iwobi, who plays 0.3 through balls a game, and he plays the most through balls in our squad this season. 0.3 through balls a game.
Good lord.
So what I'm saying is when you look at all those stats, I don't see a lot of creativity in that midfield. Now Sigurdsson obviously has had his moments with us over the journey.
Yeah.
Under other managers and before, I think tactics these days have sort of seen the death of the number 10. Like look at Ozil at Arsenal, like those guys who are used to playing in the pocket. In that, there's no real 10s in the league anymore if you look across the league. So I think Sigurdsson suffered that way, and he's now trying to sort of reinvent himself as a deeper playmaker, which I think we can all acknowledge is not going fantastically well.
Absolutely not.
For starters, he's as slow as molasses and has the turning circle of a bloody elephant. So, very easy for more nimble-footed midfielders to get away from him. But when I was looking at these stats, I sort of was thinking about our transfer history as well. And we do have a bit of a habit over the last 3 or 4 years since we got our Iranian sugar daddy of paying big money for fringe players from bigger clubs. And it never works. If you look at our unsuccessful transfers, Balassi, I think, was probably a bit unfortunate because he was the best player at a lesser club. Actually, it was okay for us before his injury and circumstances. But you look at guys like, Schneiderlin, Walcott, Delph.
Jury's still out on Iwobi.
Yeah, jury's still out on Iwobi. I would agree with that. But those sort of older guys who are not getting a game at a so-called bigger club, and then we pay them massive wages to come over here. I hate to say it as well, that I have to lump in with all of this is Bernard. I mean, he should be, for the amount of wages he's on, he should be in some of those stats, and he's in none of them. All those stats I just went through, he's nowhere near any of them. Well, his output is.
It's really weird because I really like Bernard. I'm a big fan of him.
I do too. Yeah.
I don't. Maybe it's like an illusion of having a Brazilian small guy running around on the pitch. Really quick, fast touches. Maybe it's an illusion that I'm creating for myself. But
he'd definitely be one of our top wage earners, I would say. And I don't think he's. If we're whinging about the output of guys like Walcott and Sigurdsson who are on big wages as well, I reckon Bernard would be on similar wages for realistically a lot less output than even those two over his entire Everton career.
Yeah, because he has been in and out of the team a lot, hasn't he?
Yeah, maybe he's just struggling to. I mean, he's a little fella. Maybe he's struggling to adapt to the physicality.
Mm.
And also, he's come out recently, hasn't he? And I'm not saying this is necessarily an excuse for poor performances whenever, but he seems to be struggling mentally with anxiety and things like that. And he's come out and spoken very candidly about his issues. And I guess it's just a reminder that yes, footballers earn X, Y, Z amount of money, but they are human beings and they're not robots. And it's obviously big of him to do that. So maybe that's had something to do with it. Maybe,
maybe he's not settling in, and but again, it's just sort of another big name player on big wages who's delivering nothing. If I also look at the successful transfers that we've had over the last few years, it's guys like Holgate and DCL who, I think actually tip your hat to Walsh. I think he spotted them running around in the lower leagues during his time. Guys like Keane, arguably he's had some good moments and some very bad ones.
Yes,
was obviously a better player in a lesser team. Pickford, same. Sigurdsson was good before the death of the number 10. So if you look at our sort of most successful transfers, it's guys that are not coming from bigger clubs on big wages who couldn't get a game at the club they're at. It's guys on the up, not on the way down.
Yeah. 100% agree. I think back in the Moyes era, we've had some good signings from those players. If you look back at Tim Howard, for example, was on the peripheral at Man United. Phil Neville, I think I've already mentioned him once, but was a shrewd signing. I know a lot of people gets a lot of hate from Evertonians, but I think he did a job at a time that's right, where he was our sort of level, and that was.
You could also say even Darren Gibson was serviceable if you consider the wages that he would have been on.
Apart from the boozed up driving and all the trouble that he got into.
We've all been there.
Marouane Fellaini's another one.
Yeah,
great signing.
I loved Fellaini. He was
our liability in defensive midfield, but once he moved into that 10 role, his chest was just like Velcro.
Fellaini was pretty much everything that we're missing at the moment, and that's almost like a Tim Cahill, they're not similar players, but similar in mentality, that they are that little, they're narky, they're a bit nasty, they're not afraid to dig the elbow and every now and then, not afraid to wind players up. And Fellaini, like Cahill, was our player that could do that, that could wind people up, that can get stuck in, that can throw his weight around and be a nuisance. And we don't seem to have that anymore. There's no fight. There's no passion. There's not someone that can affect things in that state.
Yeah, I agree. So when I was going through those stats, though, this is I discovered who our next signing should be. Because when I was going through all these stats,
we get a drum roll and
prediction.
There was one guy at Norwich actually, who was very high up in all these stats.
Wendia?
Yeah. He's 23, 24. He can play wide or central midfield. Mm-hmm. He's 2.4 key passes per game, which is up there with Digne. So this season he's got 7 assists, which is more than anyone in our team.
Wow.
I imagine these were largely in the first half of the season when Norwich were doing better than they are now, but still.
Yep.
He does 3.1 successful dribbles a game, which is way more than anyone in our team. He gets fouled more than anyone in our team, and he tries 0.1 more through balls. But that 0.4 actually put him number 1 in the Premier League of attempted through balls in these stats I was looking at.
Okay.
He's a guy that fits into the brand's model of being, under 25. Obviously, we're all assuming Norwich is probably going to get relegated. So you think he'll be looking to move. You think he wouldn't cost too much when you're buying from a championship club. I think he's probably a perfect signing because he's going to add that creativity that we don't have to our midfield.
On paper, that sounds really good. I haven't really watched too much of Norwich, obviously, with everything that's gone on. I think everyone's kind of fallen by the wayside when it comes to watching players closely. But Buendia scored a decent goal the other day, didn't he? I think against Brighton, Watford, one of those clubs, one of those 6 or 7 clubs that no one really knows anything about down the bottom. I wouldn't disagree with you. He seems exciting. He's a South American midfielder, which is always good.
Yeah.
So, well, allegedly. That sounds good.
I just think, with a lot of the players that we're being linked with, like I'm sick of hearing about Lingard. I don't want to hear that one again.
Yeah, that needs to stop.
Yeah, that's right. And I imagine, for every time we get linked to Lingard, I just think, why are we not getting linked to guys like this? I mean, I'm a stats guy. Obviously, stats don't tell the full story. But when I looked at, I wasn't purposely looking for Buendia when I was going through those stats, but he was just in the top 10 every time I looked at it amongst guys like, De Bruyne, Salah, Mane. Even Adama Traore from Wolves has a much better output than us. And the other thing I wanted to sort of bring up as well, as we were talking about earlier, the pressure that players can be under and the pressure that our own crowd can bring on them. I think you guys were discussing that last week.
Yeah.
I wonder if sometimes we actually berate the creativity out of some of these players because they might, as fans, they may...
Tom Davis being the number one case of it. He gets dogs abuse because obviously he's a local lad, and I think some of the old Goodison dads on the Gladys Street are probably a bit tougher on him than they are on other players, and I think that probably rings true.
And I think I've heard a lot just within our WhatsApp group, and also within our own supporters group, and also larger groups and larger newspapers and publications and all that sort of thing about Iwobi. And I think but at least he's trying. Like, he might give the ball away, but he's trying something, and I don't see that anyone else is really trying anything. And if you look at the guys who could come into the squad, I mean, Delphs doesn't strike me as the most creative player. Maybe when responding to fans on Instagram, he gets creative, but other than that, Gabamin obviously wasn't brought in as a creative influence. He's sort of supposed to protect the defense. We should be getting more from Gomez in a creative sense, I believe, and Davis as well. Sigurdsson's, let's face it, at the end of his career. If any one of Delph, Walcott, Sigurdsson, off the top of my head, if those three are still getting regular games for us next season, then we can expect mid-table again, as far as I'm concerned.
For me, there's a lot of those midfield players that I just don't see playing for us next season at all. Either we get other players from other clubs, or we promote some youngsters.
Absolutely, and look at Gordon's going very well. Since he's come in, and as Nick's highlighted with those stats that he had before as well, he's already got more assists than half the bloody midfield at Everton.
You just think now, look, for me, the season is dead. We're not going to get relegated. We're not going to get relegated. We're not going to get Europa League because I think that Tottenham loss, that was it. You might as well call the season over. So I think now it's time for Ancelotti just to play the young players in. I don't want to see Sigurdsson playing again this season.
No, I don't.
Put someone, I don't know, like Banagimi, put him in. He looked good. He seems to have fallen by the wayside over the last year or so. But he, if he's good enough to be on the bench, then you would imagine that Ancelotti at least have faith in him to bring him on if he needs him.
That's it. Yeah.
So you might as well play the lad. You know what I mean? Play him. Play the kids. I mean, obviously you need that spine. You need obviously Digne, and the defence are largely quite good. I'm really impressed by Holgate. Keane's done okay as well since he's come back in the team. We've got Minu as well coming back, and those players can stay. But I think when it comes to the midfield and the lack of creativity, let's put the kids in and see what happens. Because I know that there is, you want to finish up as high up the table as possible, and we don't really want to be finishing 14th, 15th, which is still possible if we lost our next few games. But why continue with Gordon? Why don't we play some of the young kids?
What have we got to lose? Like, seriously, there's nothing. So we might as well give them game time.
Yeah. I agree. And I mean, I also, talking about Moise Keane, I know he's a bit of a sticking point among many Evertonians. I mean, we were going over our failed transfers earlier, these big names from other clubs, older sort of players. Now, obviously, Brands has been very public in saying we need younger guys. We want to bring in guys who we can then on-sell for profit if they become too big for the club, for example. The issue is if you're going to...
No one's too big.
But if you're going to buy these young guys, you have to actually give them games, or the next lot of young guys are not going to want to come. So Moise Keane's come over. Obviously, he hasn't got many starts. I've liked what I've seen of him when he has played. I think he's one of the more skillful players in our team. For the next few weeks, I'd like to see Moise get a few starts, push Richarlison back out to the left, because no one else in midfield is creating anything, and play Moise up front with DCL and see what he can do. Looking for players who can sort of get defenders scared of them. I mean, he His skills are good from what I've seen. He's obviously a big, strong, quick boy.
Yeah.
A bit like Rom was, but maybe with a better first touch. So, I'd love to see that guy get a run in and see what he can do. We're looking for a player that can unlock those defenses that sit deep or at least make defenders nervous. I reckon Keane could be it.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
So, yeah, I'd love to see him get a few more games under his belt at the expense of guys like Walcott, Bernard, Sigurdsson, whoever. Let's just play 4 strikers and no midfield stuff.
Yeah, just go all out attack. You might as well. Maybe just leave that for the home games, and then away games, whatever happens, I guess. But for the home ones, just go all out attack. Get that winning feeling back at home.
Yeah, that's right. And even if you look at, our goal difference, which I just briefly looked at today, we've probably got the worst, from memory off the top of my head, the worst goal difference from the teams in the top half. We're -8. We've scored 40, whereas most of the teams around us have scored 50 plus. So Ancelotti's done a really good job making us more defensively sound, I believe. Take away that Chelsea just before lockdown defeat.
Yeah.
We haven't
Which
really
it can happen to any team. Anyone, Chelsea.
That's
can go
right.
I mean,
we did it to them when they played us when Dunk was in charge.
Yeah, that's right.
Same
Yeah.
to them. So, but I think he's made us much more defensively sound. I think his son's had a lot to do with improving our set pieces, both defensively and offensively. So those things are good.
The structure's there.
You wonder where the goals are going to come from because, as we've all just discussed, there just seems to be no one, A, who's creative enough to sort of unlock a game, or B, has enough character to grab a game by the scruff of the neck and sort of drag the other players with you.
That's it. Yeah.
I think that's it. It's the character. It's the grit, isn't it? It's that it's not even necessarily. I said this last week. It's with Evertonians. All we want is a bit of guile, a bit of grit, a bit of determination, and a bit of passion.
Yeah.
Doesn't even necessarily, the silky skills like a Bernard or something like that. That comes secondary, I believe. I think it's that core grit, passion, determination, and that gets us through. And that's what made us in the Moyes era so strong and formidable is that we had that sort of we weren't the best on the pitch skills wise, but we had that special something that could grind out a 1-0 win against Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool.
That's it. Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. And I think we're just missing that. And I think sometimes when we're playing well, we look actually really good aesthetically on the pitch. I think one of the best times I ever saw us play was West Ham away last season, and we won 2-0 very comfortably. It could have been 4-5, and we were fantastic. Bernard was fantastic that day, and it looked aesthetically very, very pleasing. But when the chips are down, like when we go 1-0 down away at Tottenham, and Tottenham aren't the best side in the world.
Yeah, no, that was shocking.
Who's going to grab the ball by the horns? I can't see any of those players doing that.
Yeah, I agree. And I just wanted to touch on one more thing from the Tottenham game, which I forgot earlier. Yeah. Hopefully now everyone's starting to see how much of a jerk Son Heung-min really is. Bloody hell, he's an angry little man. Now he's having to go at his own players.
Well, at least we actually got to see, players, dishing it out at each other, saying, because, Song lost the ball and stuff. So, it was good to see some passion between them saying, yeah, do your job right. What are you doing?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Delph's very good at that. Unfortunately, he's the one who's just given the ball away most of the time. So,
yeah.
That's I think we don't want to repeat too much, but I think Delph has been massively disappointing. I'd like to single him out because
I was excited when we signed him.
Well, yeah, I mean, when we signed him from City, and we were talking about it last week briefly, but when we signed him from City, I thought, wow, it's a winner. It's someone that's won. I know he was in and out of the side at City and injured and all sorts of things, but when he was fit, he was getting games for City, and there's obviously a player in there. If Guardiola thinks you're decent, then you
has that versatility to go from midfield to left back and.
Yeah, a great utility player, someone who can fill in as and when and be a decent player on the ball. But he just seems to have, I don't know. I think he maybe thinks he's too big for the club. But he's been probably the most disappointing signing.
I remember him saying when he came in that he was really looking forward to bringing this trophy-winning mentality to Everton. Like he had a big spiel on that, and I thought, great, this is what we need.
He was probably told to say that by a press officer. He's like,
yeah. But I think he's sort of taken it a bit too literally and taken it to heart. And what he's actually done is just come in with this. I'm much better than you attitude. and put sort of I know definitely a lot of fans and potentially a lot of players offside as well. I mean, he's certainly not shy in mouthing off to players on the field, and then a couple of games later going and getting himself a silly second yellow. So
things like that were very. That's the side of his play that frustrate me. He'll just do things like that, and then what? It's like, mate, you know what you did, and like you kind of let the team down, and then at the end they do their little apology thing, but it's just like you didn't have to do that. Like there was no reason for you to do it, but you did it because you just thought better.
If we're talking about the Watford game,
the Watford one,
I think I remember watching this. Obviously, we went on and won the game, which was phenomenal. But
exactly.
Aside from that, because we were 2-2, so we come back from 2-0 down, and basically he didn't know we were going to go on and win the game. He went and effectively threw that game away, or it should have been thrown away because we came back from 2-0 down, and we were on the ascendancy, and and then he gets sent off. So if it wasn't Watford, for example, then we should have got on to either have at least drawn that game, probably lost it. Okay, something weird happened and Walcott scored, and we won the game. But him getting himself sent off there was pretty much unforgivable, and you could see it happen about 5 seconds before it did happen. You could see I was watching it sort of on Optus Sport going like this, no, and then he did it, and I was like, you idiot,
because he was mouthing off to the ref the whole, like, he got his yellow, and then once he got that yellow, every type of thing he did, he was mouthing off to the ref, mouthing off to the other players. And I'm just like, dude, calm down. Calm down. You're going to get sent off, and then he does that. You're right, Nick.
Yeah, 100%. So I think, as we know in the WhatsApp group, we had a little hashtag previously, things that are better than Schneiderlin. We may have to change that to things that are better than Delph moving forward, I think.
Possibly.
Because I've deleted Schneiderlin from my memory. He's off the social media. He's gone.
Now I've got to direct all my scorn at someone else.
Fair enough. So is that all your points there, Tim?
You'd hope so, wouldn't you? Let's be honest.
No.
It's been very insightful, Tim.
No, very good. Yeah, thank you for those. So now we'll preview the Southampton game. Tim, did you want to kick us off?
Laptop.
So that's a 3 a.m. start today, I believe. Tomorrow, whatever.
Yep, 3 a.m. tomorrow for us.
I can get up to watch it. Look, it's impossible to predict these games at the moment. Based on last week, I would say 0-0. I guess what I'd like to see is maybe a bit more attacking intent, particularly against a team that's a bit lower on the table. I guess what I'd more like to see is some of those changes we discussed in the lineup. So obviously Holgate, is out, unfortunately.
Yeah, Holgate's out,
So I guess we'd go Coleman, Keane, Mina, Digne. Then I'd like to see Gordon, maybe even try a Wobie in central midfield. Why not? Next to Gomez. Throw Richarlison out on the left and DCL and Keane up forward. I highly doubt that's what we'll get, but that's what I'd like to see. In terms of scoreline, look, realistically, I think we should be able to win that by a goal, whether that's 1-0 or 2-1. That'd be my tip, realistically.
Oh, fair enough. And you, Nick?
Yeah, I think I'd echo what Tim was saying. I'm not sure about Iwobi in central midfield. But hey, as I said, there's nothing to lose, so why not?
Yeah, nothing to lose. Why not?
Yeah, I think Iwobi's a bit like Billy Leptonov, if you remember.
Oh, good old Billy, yeah.
When they stuck him out the wing, and all Evertonians were saying, "No, he's better through the middle." But realistically, he probably just wasn't that good. Although I love Billy. He had the odd firecracker in him, didn't he? Anyway, I digress. So I think, I think the back four will be Mina coming in for Holgate. Obviously, the goalie the same. Gordon will continue, I would imagine. I'd probably say Bernard will start over Iwobi, potentially, with the midfield. I don't think he'll drop Sigurdsson. I think Sigurdsson and Gomez will start, unfortunately. I think it'll be DCL and Richarlison up front again. But yeah, I'd love to see Keane get a shot at it. I mean, I think, personally, for me, the jury's still out on Keane. I'm not sure he's actually that good. I think there's a reason why Juve were okay to let him go for 27, because 27 million for a really promising Italian international is peanuts nowadays, and they were happy to see him go, weren't they, for 27? Look, I really hope I'm wrong, and I really hope things work for him, whether it's at us, whether it's elsewhere. Obviously, I hope it's at us, but I hope he has a really good career and everything goes well. I just don't think he's that top level, and I haven't seen anything from him, albeit he has had limited game time. So yeah, I think that's probably going to be the starting lineup. Over to you, Andy.
Yeah, I pretty much with you guys. I want to just see, a front three attacking: Moise Kean, DCL, and Richarlison. The defense, I agree. With replacing Holgate and with Mina. And I hate to say, but he'll probably will start Sigurdsson. With Gomez, but it'll be interesting.
Southampton have got some good players as well.
They do.
Danny Ings we've got to score
Danny Ings
2
is
goals.
killing it.
Danny Ings is going to score at least one, isn't he? So
he'll score. Yeah, we'll definitely concede. I know score prediction maybe 2-1, maybe 3, but I know. But my heart tells me, I know, a sloppy 1-0 loss.
So Southampton aren't a bad side. I think we might.
Yeah, I think they got better momentum than us at the moment and playing much better.
Yeah.
Didn't they just do City recently? Do I remember? The games are coming so thick and fast. I'm finding it hard to keep
up. They beat City 1-0.
Into one. I'm not really. Yeah, the contractually obliged Premier League is at the moment, isn't it?
And they did win. And like they said some stats that I saw, like Man City had basically shots at the goal like double, like in the 20s compared to theirs, and they still lost. So they've got defensively they're doing it right, but it's just I'm not sure. It's like which Everton's going to turn up.
Well, there's that as well, but
probably
I guess
one that's very boring to watch.
as we were discussing,
I hope not.
With various degrees of absolute rubbish in between.
Well, I think you'll find we'll actually play quite well now that there's nothing left to play for.
Well, I hope so.
There's
I
no
really
pressure.
do.
There'll be a bit more freedom and creativity this week, perhaps.
I hope Carlo.
Everton.
I hope Carlo really kicked them into gear at training and got them to wake the hell up and show some passion and commitment and perform.
I hope you're right.
If they're struggling to care about the rest of this season as much as I am, with all the
especially over here when you have to be up at God knows what time in the morning to watch absolute dross for 90 minutes.
I think also though we are going to have to see a few more young players in the next couple of days, because correct me if I'm wrong, we have something like 3 games in 7 days or something. So we're going to have to rotate a little bit. So hopefully we do see, Moise Kean, who I disagree respectfully with Nick. I think he's a gun. And, Nick, you said you'll buy some beers if we sign Coutinho. I'll buy some beers if Moise Kean doesn't live up to his potential.
Okay, fair enough. They're both equally unlikely to happen. So.
Well, we'll see.
Yes, we shall definitely see that. Alrighty, well, we'll finish it. We'll finish it there. Thanks, Tim, for joining us.
Thanks, guys. It's been great. Hopefully, you might have to put up with me again in the near future. I'll try and be a bit less stat heavy next time, perhaps.
No, it's all good, and stats are always good to get. I don't know, put some facts and figures and numbers behind why we're also at a loss.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. So if you scour the internet long enough, you can find a reason backed up by numbers.
That's it. And thank you, Nick.
Cheers, mate. Thank you for having me.
And you can find us on the socials on Twitter at Toffees Victoria, and we've got our Facebook group and our Facebook page at the Victorian Everton Supporters Club. See you later.
There you go.
See ya.